Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we are going to be doing this underwater ocean look. I'll make sure to put everything I used today into the description box so that way you guys can recreate this tumbler if you would like to. So let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. Starting off with the mug that I'm using today. This is a 15-ounce glass coffee mug that I got from the Stainless Depot company. It is a snow globe tumbler as well. It has the bamboo lid here, which I think you guys could probably switch out for the jelly lids if you would like to, if you're not into the bamboo lids, but the bamboo lid doesn't bother me. It kind of goes with the look that we're after today. Now, it does have the hole in the bottom, but didn't have the plunger for the bottom, so I'll kind of go over that here in a minute on how I manage that without having the actual plunger. So we're gonna get the liquid into the center first. I really love this mix. It really looks like the ocean once it gets poured together, but all it is distilled water. I put it into a condiment bottle that I got from the Dollar Tree. Then I'm gonna take some blue mica powder. I'm gonna put some blue mica powder right down into the water, and then you're just gonna shake it up really good, and that's it. That's your liquid. You could also tint the water if you want to. You can use an alcohol ink to tint the water so that way once the mica powder settles, it kind of has a coloring to it still, but I didn't do that this time. I did that actually when I did a split beach tumbler, a snow globe beach tumbler last time. Then you simply want to go ahead and fill up your snow globe tumbler. I had a few questions about using just distilled water versus, adding anything else into it. How does it hold up over time? Holds up perfectly fine. Doesn't grow mildew or anything like that. As long as everything is clean and proper, should be good to go. I mean, it doesn't get mildewy in the jug or anything, right? So you just want to think of it like that. As long as the inside of the mug in between there that we're putting this liquid into is clean and sterile for the most part, it should be good to go. I've had a few mugs of these that I've done, for a few years now, and they're perfectly fine. So I like to try to put as much liquid as humanly possible into these mugs while leaving it's okay to have a little bit of bubble. You want a little bit of a bubble, but you really want to try to get as much as you can in there. So I just kind of set it on the table and just kind of tap out any little air bubbles and just kind of try to fill it as I go and do the best I can. I don't want a huge bubble, just a small like dime size bubble will be fine. So sometimes the plunger doesn't come in the box, or sometimes you might have lost it or whatever the case may have been, but Resin Rockers actually makes these kits. You get the soft coat UV resin with the little mold there to form your own little plungers to go right down into the hole, and it has like a bigger one and a smaller one. It's pretty cool. I really like it just for instances like this. And because it's UV resin, you simply fill up the little mold, you're going to place it under your UV lamp and cure it, and voila, you have a little plunger. Now I'm going to go ahead and place that down. Some of the water is going to squirt out. That's perfectly fine. We're just going to come through with a damp cloth. If you have any oils or anything in the bottom of this, you really want to make sure you come through with rubbing alcohol and clean off any oil that might have spilled out inside of your tumbler. But we're just using water, so we don't have to do all that. But the oil will really kind of interfere with the curing of the UV resin, and we don't want that. So after we make sure any amount of liquid's gonna pop out of there, you wanna take the plunger back out, you're gonna lay down your UV resin, put your plunger back into the hole, and then you're going to cure that really well. And we have the ocean look going for us here in our tumbler. So obviously you could go any which way with this look, but you can see how the mica powder settles. See how it settles? So what's gonna happen is it's gonna settle, and then when you shake it, it'll cause that effect. So that's why if you want to do or dye the water in between, what will happen is once that mica powder settles, because it's heavy, the liquid will stay whatever color you tint it. So like the blue or whatever, it'll stay tinted. And then when you shake it up, obviously it'll look like this. So now I'm going to put some epoxy over top because I want to add more to this wave look or this ocean look that we're going for. So we're going to go ahead and tape off the upper rim of our mug here with some electrical tape. The great thing about electrical tape is when you pull it, it will kind of stretch and form and mold with whatever surface you're kind of pulling it on, which I'll explain even more when we go to do the lid, because this stuff works great for that as well. And of course, because I just can't get enough glitter, I'm going to add a little bit of ultra fine glitter down into my epoxy that I have here. So I have some blue ultra fine and a white, of course. Now, I used about 5 milliliters of epoxy here. You don't need much. You want enough so that way when we go to do the wave look that your waves are going to move around, but you don't want to overdo it. You don't need to completely load it on. So 5 mLs was good. And you guys know down in the cup, there's like a little bit left sometimes. That's all you need for this next step. You just need a very tiny amount. I'm adding some epoxy dye into it, or you can add white alcohol ink into it. And then you're simply going to take that epoxy mixture and you're just going to dabble it all around your tumbler. Now, I was really going for that wave look or the ocean, inside of ocean look, so I really loaded this on. If you don't want too much of this look, then don't add a lot of it, so it's completely up to you. Now, to move our waves around, I'm going to use my handy dandy hair blow dryer here. And I'm going to put that on high, and I'm just going to go up one way on my tumbler. So I'm going to push everything towards the top of the mug here, or the tumbler. Then I'll switch directions and start pushing everything towards the bottom of the mug or tumbler. Then after I do that, I will come through and I'll kind of concentrate on certain areas, just kind of really putting it down on top of areas I really want to make sure that gets spread out. But the main thing you want to focus is if you add too much heat, it could start to add separation of your epoxy. So you just want to be careful with that. That's why I like to use a hair dryer. It doesn't provide so much heat that it's overpowering and it could scorch or make your epoxy start to cure too fast. So that's why I like to use a hair dryer. I don't know if I've ever discussed that with you guys, but yeah, that's why I like to use the hair dryer. And then after I get so much heat applied to it, I'm going to take it off my turner and then I will tip it downwards and let everything kind of slip down. And I will tip it back up onto itself or tip it up and do the same thing, letting everything kind of slip around just a little bit. And I like that. I think that looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and make sure I remember to remove the tape because we don't want to accidentally glue our tape down to our project here. And then I will let that cure. Now let's go ahead and do up the lid. So we're going to go ahead and remove this little rubber gasket. I like to remove that so that way I don't get that all gunked up with epoxy or anything, because you want to be able to easily remove this for washing when you start to use it. You definitely want to still be able to take this in and out to properly wash it. So let's go ahead and get this taped up. We are going to take our electrical tape. We are going to press it against the side, and I'm holding it with my thumb really hard so that way it doesn't move around, and I'm pulling really hard in the opposite direction so that way it flips in on itself and starts to create that fold, and it will create this really nice outlined look for us around the edge. It's super simple. I think the hardest part is just making sure that it's as even as you can get it. So you're just going to pull and just continue to line that lid with it so that way you can get that taped up. And if you feel like you might get epoxy down into the hole there, you can go ahead and tape that up as well. And then I just take a sharp knife and just cut along the outside of the straw hole there. And there you go. Now we're going to go ahead and come through and give it a little sand. So you're just going to take your sanding block and rough it up a bit. And of course you want to come through and wipe off any debris after you're done doing that. Now I have another 5 mLs of epoxy. That was quite a bit actually. I don't think I could go any less than that, maybe 2.5. I don't know, you don't need a lot because we're going to be putting sand inside of this. This is just vase filler that I got from Michael's, I do believe, and that's all you want to use. Or you could use sand that you got from a special beach or something. That's completely up to you guys how you want to do this. But now you just want to go ahead and fill it with your sand. The reason why I'm not using UV resin for this is because it wouldn't be able to cure properly because the sand is so dense and the UV resin wouldn't be able to reach the UV light properly. So that's why we're going to use regular resin for this. And I just filled it until it got pretty thick. I like the consistency of that. And of course I wanted to add a little sparkle, so I am going to add some ultrafine like gold glitter to it, and I am going to add some chuggy glitter to it too, because, got to have extra sparkle. But again, this is the consistency I'm working with. See, I scrape it on the edge there and it kind of holds steady. That's what I'm working with. Now I'm going to go ahead and start loading on to my lid here. Now I'm also keeping in mind that it is going to kind of spread out a bit, so I'm going to not get it too close to the edges. I'm going to get it as close as I can, but it is going to spread out just a bit, so just keep that in mind, especially if you didn't add enough sand to it, it will spread out a lot. So just make sure you remember that whenever you're spreading it on. I want to add some extra glitter to it, of course, again. So I'm going to take a little bit of Light Year by PDB Creative Studio, and I'm just going to sprinkle that around. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape now, so I'll just gently pull back the tape. Now, I happen to live near a beach, so I have lots of shark's teeth that I've collected over the years and seashells that I've collected over the years. But of course, if you have stuff that you collected from a special vacation that you guys went on to, you could use those as well as like a, you can kind of see it, you get to use it, and it gets to be a part of what you're doing. And you kind of remember the vacation you went on to. But the main thing you want to do is make sure that you pick out stuff that's somewhat flat. You want to be able to make sure that it's going to be flat onto the lid. You don't want it to be like bumped up or anything. And then you're just going to have fun. You're going to go ahead and layer on your shells and your little mementos and just have fun creating and making it look the way that you want it to look. I even thought it would be kind of cool to have like a little bottle, I think they have like little miniature bottles. You could put like a little scroll in there so it kind of looked like something washed up onto the shore. I thought about that too, but I didn't do it this time. And after I got done doing the lid, I was like, you know what? Let's do a coaster too. So I pulled out my coaster. I realized it was dirty. And to clean it off, silicone coasters or molds, it's super easy. You're just going to take a piece of painter's tape and just do this and it'll get it out of there. Or you can use like lint rollers or something. And there you go. You're going to have a nice clean mold after you do that. And I wanted to make sure I match my lid. So I'm going to sprinkle down some of that chunky glitter that I used on the lid down onto the mold as well. And I want to say I did about 50 milliliters of epoxy and then filled it with sand. I think that's what I did. It was close to that, 40 or 50. Okay, don't quote me on that. But you're going to do the same thing like you did with the lid. You're just going to put your sand down into the epoxy, pour it into your mold, and set it off to the side and let that cure. Everything is cured. It's the next day and we are ready to keep on moving here. So let's go ahead and unmold our coaster and see how that turned out. Super cute. Love it so far. Our lid is looking fabulous as well. And now we're ready to finish this up. I have these UV-DTFs that I got from Amazon. I just really like the way that all the colors kind of float together. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these apart. And then once I have them cut apart, I'm going to go ahead and start layering them on. So UV-DTFs is this thing where it gets printed onto this film. Just the decal gets printed onto this film, so there's nothing around it. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you squeegee it down to your project here. You want to be very careful because once it's down, it's down. You're going to pull back that transfer tape that we used, and there you go. All that's left is the image itself. If it happens to get any little air bubbles underneath, don't be afraid to come through with a little pin and poke a hole right into the top of the bubble, burnish it down again, and there you go. You got that little bubble out of there. But these are super easy to use, super fun to use, and I really love how it's just the decal. It's definitely one of my favorite things to use is UV-DTFs. I'm going to go ahead and layer down some of the stuff. I'm going to keep in mind that I do want to put a quote in here too. So what we're going to do is layer it on. So we're going to lay down some stuff in the back. We're going to put the quote on and layer some stuff over the top of that as well. So I'm also going to put one thing into my coaster too to kind of tie everything together and get my quote put down once I get all the background stuff put down. And it was just a really simple go with the flow. I do believe I got it right off of Creative Fabrica just like this. All I did was layer it up with a pretty blue, sparkly blue vinyl and then a white underneath. I did an offset and a white, and there you go. We got our decal on. And then I'm going to finish it up by layering up some more of these UDTFs right over top of our decal. Usually I'm more of a less is more type person, but for this one, I was like, you know what, we're going to go all out because we already did the lid. We're doing a coaster. So I pretty much used all of those UDTFs on this one. All right. Cause I was go big or go home, so this is how mine is looking. Now we're going to go ahead and get it ready for epoxy. So I'm going to seal it down with a spray sealer or a liquid sealer. I'm going to get a coating of epoxy put over top of this. And again, I'm going to use, what am I going to use? Electric Feel by PDB Creative Studio. I thought it was really pretty. It has like all the colors that are in these decals. It has pinks and purples and blues and all that. So I really like that, and it really did match very well with it. And again, just sprinkle that down however much you want to put down. And then of course you'll let that cure, and then you're going to need to apply another coat or two of epoxy over top of the raw glitter, and the mug is good to go. Now let's finish up this coaster. So what you want to do is you want to get some more epoxy, another 5 mLs of epoxy. You're going to put some more sand in it, just like we did when we went to go fill it. And I want this propped up because I want that sand to give us an area to put some shells down into it to look like they're sunk down into the sand. And then, so I'm just using the coaster mold that I used for the coaster itself. I thought that was a good tilt to it, I guess you want to say. And then I'm just going to layer that sand mixture right down into 1/2 of our mold here, or our coaster. I'm just going to spread that out evenly. And again, we're going to take our favorite shells and just plop that right down into the sand and make sure that it's pushed down in there. And we're even going to come through and kind of layer the sand over top as well, so it really gives it that inside the sand look. And you also want to make sure that it's not going to be intrusive. So anything large, I'm making sure that I place really far off to the side, so that way the cup won't get interfered with it, like it won't be lopsided when the cup gets put down onto it. Anything that's going to be under the cup will be able to be covered with epoxy, because we're going to be adding another layer of epoxy. So you just want to make sure it's not going to be intrusive to whatever cup you plan on using inside of it. So of course I sprinkled a little bit more glitter down into it once I got my shells down. I had some of these little gravel rock pieces that I laid down into it, and then I'm going to simply let that cure right tilted on just like it is until the next day. And there we go, look at that, super cute. I mean, obviously you could leave it like this too. You don't really need to do what I'm about to do. You could leave that as is, but I wanted to add like a layer, another layer to match the cup itself. So we're gonna go ahead and just I just did it right up to the shells. I didn't even fill it all the way. And then I'm going to add some more white epoxy dye or white alcohol ink right down into whatever's left into the bottom there. And then I'm just going to streak that through the wet epoxy that we just laid down. And of course you can add as much as you would like to or as little as you would like to. So I'm just going to swirl that around. I'm going to very gently hit it up with my torch here just until everything kind of shifts just a little bit. You don't want to scorch it. And then after that, I'm going to place that off to the side and the flattest surface I have, which happens to be where my tumbler turner is. And then I'm going to let everything cure properly, and then everything is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.